Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make Stollen bites, or Stollenkonfekt, as they're known in Germany and Austria. So these are little yeasted bites in the manner of that lovely Stollen bread, which is a Christmas bread that has marzipan in it. Now for these Stollen bites, most of the videos and the recipes that I've checked don't include marzipan as part of the ingredients, but they do include an almond flavouring, almond extract or whatever. So that's what I'm going to do. So they're little yeasted bites that have chopped fruits in them, and they have the almond flavour, and then once they're baked, they're tossed in a little bit of butter and covered with some caster sugar or icing sugar, depending on your preference. So we make a starter dough, which we allow to ferment for between an hour and 3 hours, something like that. And that actually helps to keep the Stollen bites that little bit fresher for longer. And then, having made the starter dough, we then soak some fruits. Now I'm going to use sultanas and cherries, glacé cherries, and mixed peel, chopped mixed peel, but you could use whatever fruits you want basically. And I'm going to soak those in some amaretto, which is an almond liqueur, but you could use rum or brandy or something like that, or you can just soak them in some hot water or hot tea if you don't want the alcohol flavour. So we leave those to steep, and then we make our dough, and our dough combines the sponge or the starter dough that we're making with all the other ingredients for the dough, and we mix in our fruits and such like. Then we allow that to proof, then we cut the dough into portions, bake them, and then, as I said, toss them in butter and flour. So there's a few steps to it, and it takes a bit of time, but they'll be ideal for Christmas treats, and they freeze well, so you can actually bake them in advance, freeze them, and take them out when you want, basically. So to begin, I'll go on to the ingredients for the sponge or the starter. And for the sponge, I have here 120 grams, which is 2/3 of a cup plus 2 tablespoons of bread flour. I have 170 millilitres, 3/4 of a cup minus 2 teaspoons of lukewarm water. Mine is at about 41-42 degrees Celsius, which is, I think, about 108-109 degrees Fahrenheit. And then I have 6 grams, 2 teaspoons of instant yeast, and I'm going to put the yeast into my flour, and then I'm going to pour my water in, and I'm simply going to mix that until it's combined. And with that mixed, it's fairly smooth. If there's a couple of little lumps in, it really doesn't matter, because eventually this will going to go into our stand mixer and is going to be mixed into our dough. So I'm going to just cover that with some plastic wrap, and I'm going to leave it to rise basically, and it's going to get nice and bubbly and frothy, and I'm going to leave it for 1 or 2 hours. I haven't decided quite how long, but you can leave it up to 3 or 4 hours. That would be fine. And as that is actually activating the yeast within that flour, I'll go on to the ingredients for the fruit that's going to go into our Stollen bites. And for the fruits to go into the Stollen bites, I have here 40 grams, which is 1/4 of a cup of chopped mixed peel. I have 85 grams, which is 1/2 cup of glacé cherries, which I have cut into quarters. I have 125 grams, 3/4 of a cup of sultanas. I also have 70 grams of almonds, which I have chopped into quite fine pieces with a few little, a few larger chunks, but I've chopped those into pieces, and that's about half a cup of those almonds. And I toasted the almonds in the oven for 10 minutes before I chopped them. So that's going to give a nice almond flavour and a crunch inside our Stollen bites. And the last ingredient for the fruits and nuts is 30 millilitres, 2 tablespoons of amaretto. And this is amaretto. As I said, it's a classic almond flavour in fermented and distilled alcohol. And that's what I'm going to use to soak my fruits. But you could use another alcohol if you wanted to, or as I mentioned earlier, you could use hot water or black tea, something like that. So I've poured my amaretto into the sultanas, and I'm going to put the cherries in as well. And I'm going to just stir those around. That little bit of liquid will help to separate the cherries into so that they don't clump, because glacé cherries tend to be rather sticky. And I'm just going to set that to one side, and I'll give it a stir every half hour or so, just to distribute the liquid into the sultanas. It will eventually get absorbed in and make those sultanas nice and juicy. So that can be set aside, and so can the nuts and the chopped mixed peel, ready for going into our dough when we've made the dough. So the next thing to do is to talk about the ingredients for the dough. And for my dough, I will use my starter, which is proofing at the moment, and I will have 300 grams, 2 cups of bread flour. That's based on scooping packed flour into a 250 millilitre cup. 6 tablespoons, 85 grams of unsalted butter, which is softened. 28 grams, 1/4 of a cup of dried milk powder. 67 grams, 1/3 of a cup of caster sugar. The zest from 1 large orange. 8 grams, 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt, 10 millilitres, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and 5 millilitres, 1 teaspoon of almond extract. And that's all the ingredients for the dough. And then I just have one more set of ingredients to mention, and that is for once the Stollen bites are baked, I will have 113 grams or half a cup of butter, which will be melted by that time, and 170 grams, 1.5 cups of icing sugar. And that's all the ingredients we need. So now we can go on to make our dough. And just before we make the dough, I have my fruit here, which has been soaking in the amaretto, and I'm going to add into that my chopped almonds and my chopped mixed peel. I'm going to mix those around, and this is just getting them ready so that I can pour them into the dough once I have that mixed. So I set those to one side again, and here is the starter, which is nice and fluffy and bubbly. So that's going to go into the bowl of my stand mixer, and with that in the bowl I'm going to sprinkle over my milk powder, add in my almond extract, vanilla extract, the orange zest and the butter. I'm going to give that a mix around. And then I'm going to add in my flour and my sugar and the salt, and I'm going to mix that until it comes together into a shaggy dough. And that's come together reasonably well, really. I'm going to continue mixing it until it's all fully combined, and at that stage I will also add in my fruit and my nuts. So my dough is now quite elastic, and I'm going to put my fruit and nuts into the bowl. I'm going to do it a bit at a time, and I'm going to continue kneading that so that they get incorporated into the dough. So that's kneaded the fruit in. I'm actually just going to take that out of the bowl and give it a little knead by hand, just to make sure the fruit is fairly well distributed throughout. And because the dough is a little bit sticky still, I've put some flour on my work surface. I'm going to flatten that out so I can see how well the fruit is distributed throughout it. Now I'm going to fold it up . And the dough is tacky, but it's fine. So then I'm going to put that back into the bowl. Like that, and I'm going to cover it . And I'm going to leave it to rise for about 2 hours. But with the fruit and such like in it, that will inhibit the rising a little bit. And after 2 hours, I'll be ready to come back and divide it into pieces and shape our Stollen bites ready for baking. So I've left my Stollen bite dough to rest for just under 2 hours. And now I've taken it out and put it onto a very lightly floured surface, and I'm going to divide it into 40 pieces. Now you can weigh it if you want to and divide it into pieces according to weight, or you can try to do it by eye. It's entirely up to you. So I've divided mine into 4 pieces, and I'm actually just going to roll that into a log shape like that, and I'm going to divide it into 28.5 gram pieces. And then with those pieces like that, you can either flatten them like that, or you can roll them into a ball. Any way you want, basically. And put them onto a baking tray. So there are my 40 Stollen bites. I have 20 that I've rolled into balls and 20 that I've formed into sort of rectangles, fairly roughly, and I'm going to cover those, and I'm going to leave them to proof a little bit for about 45 minutes, and as that time comes to an end, I'm going to preheat my oven to 180 degrees Celsius, 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit, and after 45 minutes I will put these trays into the oven. I'll bake them for 18 minutes. I take them out of the oven, they should have browned quite nicely. I'll take them out of the oven and leave them on the tray for 10 minutes, and then I'll come back and I will put them into melted butter and toss them in icing sugar. So I'll have my butter melted and cooling a little bit, and the icing sugar ready once these have baked and rested for 10 minutes. I baked my Stollen bites for 18 minutes and they baked up quite nicely, and they browned. They're nice and soft on the inside, and the internal temperature reached 92 degrees Celsius, so I know that they're baked all the way through. So I've melted my butter and I have my icing sugar, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply put the Stollen bites into the butter like that, turn it over, and then drop it into the icing sugar and toss it around in the icing sugar as well. And then I'm going to put them onto a wire rack so they can cool completely, and I can always add more icing sugar later if I need to. So there are about half of my Stollen bites or Stollenkonfekt that I've tossed in the flour, in the butter and the icing sugar. I'm going to leave those to cool down, and once I've done all of them and they've cooled down, I'll come back and we'll have a taste. So my Stollen bites or Stollenkonfekt are now cooled down, and I'm going to have a taste of them. So I'll show you them again. And you can put more icing sugar on at any time you want to, basically, but I'll have a taste of this one. In fact, I'll break this in half if I can, just so that you can see the inside. I'll have a taste. That's very, very nice. I get the flavour of almond from the dough, and the fruit inside, the citrus fruit and the sultanas and the cherries, and a little crunch from those little pieces of chopped almonds as well. Very, very nice. And the sweetness from the sugar on the outside. Now, these should keep in an airtight container, cooled down, for 5 or 6 days, I would think. But you can also freeze them. If you freeze them on a tray and then put them into a bag, they should stay frozen quite nicely for a longer period of time, and you can just take out a few when you want them. So this is an ideal bake for Christmas time, basically. An easier way of making something similar to a Stollen, which is the full size loaf that has the marzipan on the inside. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there'll be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.